Hi, my name is Olivia, and let me tell you a little about my family. First, there's my mom, Rachel. Her name kind of fits. She's all about her job and having her own freedom. Then there's my dad, Jeremy. When it comes to parenting, he's not very helpful, like a screen door on a submarine, pretty much useless. My sister, Julie, is 15 years older than me. She's never really cared about me. Honestly, I wasn't exactly a planned baby. My mom was 45 when she found out she was pregnant. At first, she thought it was just menopause. But surprise, nope, it was me. Life can be pretty ironic like that. When she finally went to the doctor, it was too late to do anything about the pregnancy. From what I've learned over time, their conversation probably went something like this. Mom, Jeremy, what are we going to do? Dad shrugs. I don't know, Rachel. Maybe we should talk to my dad. That's how Grandpa Jack got pulled into it all. He lives in Italy and has money. He flew in to calm things down. I imagine he said something like, Rachel, Jeremy, I know this wasn't planned, but it's happening. I'll help you with money. Just give the baby a chance. Mom, who only really cared about her career, probably sighed and said, Fine. But this baby is not going to mess up my life. And that, folks, is how I came into the world, early with a bunch of health problems, and into a family that didn't really want me. I spent more time in the hospital than at home when I was a baby. Mom didn't come much. It was mostly Dad and my Aunt Lauren who took turns staying by my side. Aunt Lauren, now she's amazing. She never had kids of her own, but she took care of me like I was hers. While Mom was busy at work, probably closing deals, Aunt Lauren sat by my incubator, holding my tiny hand and whispering kind words to me through the little holes. When I was finally allowed to go home from the hospital, Grandpa Jack helped again. Our house wasn't big enough for 2 kids, or so they said, so he bought us a new one. Growing up in that house felt like living in a museum. Everything had to stay perfect. No touching, no noise, no fun. I quickly learned I didn't really belong. I felt like something they didn't want but couldn't throw away. Mom and Dad were always working. When they were home, they acted like I was just a burden. We had a bunch of nannies come and go. Some were kind, some weren't, but none of them stayed long enough to matter. My sister Julie, who was 15 years older than me, acted like I didn't exist. We lived in the same house, but she felt more like a stranger. She didn't want to be a big sister. I remember once when I was about 6, I tried to hang out in her room while she was getting ready for college. Julie, can I watch you do your makeup? I asked from the doorway. She barely looked at me. No, Olivia, I'm busy. Go play with your toys. But I don't want to play alone. Can't we do something together? She slammed her mascara down, turned to me, and snapped, Look, we're not friends, okay? I'm not here to babysit. Go bother Mom or Dad. That was the closest we ever got to bonding as sisters. Mom was even worse. Every day after work, it was the same thing. She'd walk in, take off her heels, and go straight to the liquor cabinet. Mom, I'd say, happy to see her. Can we play a game or read a book? She'd sigh, pour a big glass of wine, and say, For God's sake, Olivia, can't. You see, I need some quiet. Go to your room. You're old enough to play by yourself. And Dad? He once promised Mom he'd take care of me if she went through with the pregnancy. That was a joke. He was always busy or tired. His favorite words became, Not now, Olivia. I remember hearing them argue about me once. I was supposed to be in bed, but I had gotten up to get a glass of water. Jeremy, you promised you'd help with her, Mom whispered angrily. I can't do this all by myself. What do you want from me, Rachel? Dad said back. I work all day too. I'm tired when I get home. She always needs something. I didn't stay to hear the rest. I'd already heard enough to understand how they felt about me. I was just a problem they were stuck with. After that, I stopped trying. What was the point? I learned to keep myself busy, to stay quiet, and to not get in their way. I felt like a ghost in my own house, moving from room to room, trying not to bother the people who were supposed to be my family. The only person who truly cared about me was Aunt Lauren. She lived nearby, and I started spending more time with her, on weekends, during holidays, whenever I could. With Aunt Lauren, I felt important. She actually listened to me and cared about how I felt. We'd spend hours doing puzzles, baking cookies, or just talking. She'd ask about school, my friends, and my dreams, things my parents never seemed to care about. Then, when I was 15, life surprised me again. I was just trying to get through another day in that cold, quiet house when my parents gave me some big news. "Olivia," Mom said with a weirdly cheerful voice, "we have some exciting news. Your sister Julie is getting married." "And she's pregnant," Dad added, smiling like it was the best thing ever. "We're going to be grandparents." I forced a smile, not sure why they expected me to be excited. "That's great," I said quietly. "We're going to be very busy getting ready for the wedding," Mom continued, not even noticing how unexcited I was. "So we want you to stay with your Aunt Lauren for a while." I blinked, trying to understand. They were sending me away because of a wedding? Part of me wanted to feel hurt, but honestly, it was the best news I'd heard in years. "Sure," I said, trying not to sound too happy. "I'd love to stay with Aunt Lauren." They looked relieved, probably thinking I'd argue. Shows how little they really knew me. I packed my things faster than you could say unwanted child, and almost skipped all the way to Aunt Lauren's house. Time flew by. Everyone was busy getting ready for Julie's wedding, but I didn't care. I was too busy enjoying my new life. Aunt Lauren and I cooked meals together, watched movies, and took walks in the park. She helped me with my homework and actually listened when I talked about my day at school. She made me feel like I mattered. Before I knew it, it was a week before Julie's wedding, and also my 16th birthday. That morning, I woke up to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Aunt Lauren singing, badly, in the kitchen. I smiled and headed downstairs in my pajamas. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," she said, pulling me into a big hug. "I've got a surprise for you." She handed me a gift box, nicely wrapped. "It's from your grandfather. He sent it yesterday." I tore off the wrapping paper, and my eyes lit up. It was a brand new smartphone, the latest model. I quickly called Grandpa Jack, my heart full of excitement. Hello, birthday girl," he said warmly. "Do you like your present?" "Like it?" "I love it, Grandpa. Thank you so much." We talked for a while, and then he asked something I had been hoping to avoid. "So, how did your parents wish you a happy birthday?" I paused. I didn't want to tell him the truth. "Oh, I haven't seen them yet," I said. "I was planning to go home soon. I'm sure they'll say something then." There was a short silence on the other end. "I see," he said. "Well, why don't you do a live video when you get there? I'd love to share the moment with you." Feeling both nervous and hopeful, I started walking to my parents' house. The walk felt strange. Too long and too short at the same time. I turned onto our street, I took a deep breath, and started a live video on my new phone. "Hey, Grandpa," I said, trying to sound happy. "I'm on my way to see Mom and Dad now. Thanks again for the awesome phone." I kept talking as I walked, telling him about my morning with Aunt Lauren and how excited I was about my birthday. But as I got closer to the house, I started to feel uneasy. "Well, here we are," I said to the camera as I climbed the front steps. I stood there for a moment, then opened the door. "Mom? Dad? I'm home." Silence. The house felt strangely quiet, almost like no one was there. I frowned and slowly moved the camera around the empty living room. Guess they're not down here," I mumbled, more to myself than to Grandpa. "I'll check upstairs." I walked up the stairs, my footsteps echoing in the quiet house. At the top, I noticed something strange. My bedroom door was closed. That was odd. I always left it open when I wasn't home. "That's weird," I said as I reached for the doorknob. My door's never closed. I opened it and stopped. Cold. This wasn't my room anymore. The walls, which used to be soft purple, were now light blue. My posters were gone. In their place were pictures of cute animals. My bed was gone too. A white baby crib now stood where it used to be. "What the hell?" I gasped, stepping back. My phone nearly slipped out of my hand as I spun around trying to make sense of it. This can't be right. This is my room. Just then, a door opened behind me. I turned quickly and saw my parents coming out of their bedroom. They looked surprised to see me. Olivia? Mom said, glancing at the phone in my hand. What are you doing here? I could barely hear her. I was still in shock. What happened to my room? I asked. Why is it blue? Where's all my stuff? Dad cleared his throat and looked uncomfortable. Well, you see, Olivia? We've decided to give this room to your sister's baby, our first grandson. Mom nodded, smiling like everything was fine. Yes, isn't it wonderful? Julie's having a boy, the son your father always dreamed of. He'll be living here after the wedding. It felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. But where am I supposed to sleep? Where's my stuff? Oh, we packed it up, Dad said, waving his hand like it didn't matter. It's in boxes downstairs. You can take it with you when you leave. We don't want it cluttering up the house. I stared at them, not believing what I was hearing. Leave? What do you mean leave? This is my home. Mom's smile faded for a second, then came back, but it looked fake. Olivia, dear, you have to understand. With Julie and her husband moving in and the baby on the way, there's just no space for you here anymore. I stood there, frozen. My mind couldn't keep up. Then, all at once, the shock turned into anger. No, I said, my voice shaking. No, I won't leave. This is my home too. You can't just throw me out like I'm nothing. Mom's fake smile disappeared. She looked annoyed now. For heaven's sake, Olivia, don't be difficult. Difficult? I shouted back. It's my birthday and you're kicking me out? You didn't even remember, did you? Dad rolled his eyes. Your birthday. Is that what this drama is about? We don't have time for this nonsense. Their cold words hit me like a punch. I felt tears start to rise, but I blinked them away, trying to stay strong. How can you be so heartless? I asked. I'm your daughter. A daughter we never wanted, Mom snapped. Her calm face finally broke. Do you know how much you've cost us? How much time and energy you've taken from us? We're tired, Olivia. Dad nodded, looking angry. We didn't want another kid. You were a mistake. An accident. Now we finally have the family we always wanted. Every word felt like a knife. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I stood there in shock as they grabbed the bags they had, packed with my stuff, and shoved them toward the front door. There, Mom said, brushing her hands like she was done with a chore. Take your things and go to your precious Aunt Lauren. She loves you so much. Let her deal with you. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. This couldn't be real. It felt like a bad dream. What are you waiting for? Dad snapped. Get out. We have a wedding to prepare for, and we don't need you getting in the way. That's when I couldn't hold it in anymore. The tears came pouring out. I cried as the full weight of their rejection crushed me. How could you do this to me? I sobbed. I'm your child. Stop it, Mom hissed, glancing at the windows. You're embarrassing us. The neighbors will hear. Good, I yelled through my tears. Let them hear. Let everyone know what kind of people you really are. Dad grabbed my arm, his grip tight and painful. That's enough, he growled, dragging me to the door. Get out, now, and don't come back. With one final push, I stumbled out onto the front porch. My bags were scattered around me. Then the door slammed shut behind me with a loud bang that felt like it closed a chapter of my life. I sat there on the steps, crying so hard I could barely breathe. I don't know how long I stayed there. Finally, I wiped my eyes, picked up my bags, and started walking back to Aunt Lauren's. The bags felt so heavy, like they carried more than just clothes. They carried all the pain, too. As I walked, sniffling and wiping my face, I suddenly heard a voice that cut through everything. Olivia. Can you hear me? I jumped and looked around, panicking, before I realized the voice was coming from my phone. Then it hit me. I had forgotten the live video. Grandpa had seen everything. Grandpa, I whispered, lifting the phone with shaking hands. Oh, sweetheart, he said, his voice full of emotion. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Don't worry, we'll fix this. For now, just go to Lauren's. I'll see you at the wedding in a few days, okay? Try to enjoy your birthday somehow. His words calmed me down a little. By the time I reached Aunt Lauren's house, the tears had mostly stopped. One look at me, my puffy eyes, my bags, and she pulled me into a big, tight hug. Aunt Lauren, bless her, said we had to celebrate my birthday the right way. She let me invite a few friends over, baked a cake, and did everything she could to make the day feel special. Then came the day of Julie's wedding. Of course, I hadn't been invited, but Aunt Lauren said we should go anyway. So, dressed in my nicest outfit, I walked into the reception feeling like I didn't belong. I spotted Grandpa Jack almost right away. He was sitting at a table near the front, sitting straight and tall. He looked serious. So serious it made me nervous. Before I could even say hello, Julie and her new husband made their big entrance. Julie looked beautiful in her white dress, holding onto her husband's arm and smiling. Mom and Dad came in right behind them, beaming with pride. Seeing their happy faces made my chest hurt. The reception went on with the usual things: dinner, toasts, speeches. Then, out of nowhere, Grandpa Jack stood up. "I have something to say," he said loudly, his voice echoing through the room. Everyone turned to look. Julie and her husband looked confused. Mom and Dad turned pale. Grandpa walked up to the front and took the microphone from the surprised best man. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "I'm sorry to interrupt this happy day, but something serious needs to be said." Then right there in front of everyone, he told the whole story. How my parents had treated me, how they never wanted me, and how they kicked me out on my birthday. He didn't hold anything back. As he spoke, the guests' faces changed, first confused, then shocked, then angry. Mom tried to stop him, her face bright red. Julie was crying, her mascara running down her cheeks. Her new husband looked very uncomfortable. People in the crowd started whispering, looking at my parents with disgust. Then Grandpa Jack turned and faced my parents, his voice cold. "So let me make this clear," he said. "I'm changing my will. Every cent I have will go to Lauren and Olivia," Grandpa said firmly. "Jeremy, Rachel, Julie, you're cut off completely." The room exploded into chaos. Mom let out a strangled cry. Dad's face turned dark red. Julie started crying about how her wedding was ruined. But Grandpa didn't stop. He walked over to where Aunt Lauren and I were sitting, still in shock. "Come on, girls," he said gently. "We're leaving. There's no reason to stay where we're not wanted." Still in a daze, I stood up and followed him. As we walked out, I felt everyone staring at us. Some people looked sorry for me. Others looked like they were judging. I kept my eyes on Grandpa's back, trying not to cry. The next morning, I woke up to loud knocking at Aunt Lauren's front door. My eyes were still heavy, and I was still trying to make sense of everything that had happened. I went downstairs and opened the door. Mom and Dad were standing there, looking desperate and fake. "Olivia, sweetie," Mom said in a syrupy voice, "we need to talk. We want you to come home. We're so sorry about everything. We love you. We really do." Anger rose up in me. "Love me," I said. "You kicked me out. You said I was a mistake." They launched into a bunch of weak apologies and excuses. But as I listened, something clicked. This wasn't really about me at all. "This is about the inheritance, isn't it?" I said, cutting Dad off mid-sentence. Their faces fell. That was all the answer I needed. "Get out," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "I don't want to see either of you ever again." Then I slammed the door in their faces and leaned against it, trying to calm down. But they didn't stop. Over the next few days, they kept showing up. They called, they emailed, they even asked other relatives to talk to me. Each time they sounded more desperate. It all came to a head about a week after the wedding. I was home alone when I heard shouting outside. To my shock, I saw Mom and Dad arguing with Aunt Lauren, who had just come back from the store. "She's our daughter," Dad was yelling. "You can't keep her from us." Something inside me snapped. I had had enough. Enough of their lies, their fake concern, their sudden interest in me now that Grandpa's money was involved. "Aunt Lauren, let me know if you'd like the next part continued." I spoke up, sounding braver than I felt. "I want you to be my legal guardian." The words hung in the air for a moment. Then Aunt Lauren's face lit up with a big smile. "Oh, sweetie," she said. I'd be honored. With Aunt Lauren's help, we contacted a lawyer the very next day. It wasn't easy. There were lots of forms to fill out, questions to answer, and even a court hearing. But through it all, I had one piece of proof that I knew would change everything. The video from my birthday, when my parents kicked me out. The day of the court hearing finally came. My stomach was in knots. My parents were there too, acting like loving, caring people. They played their part perfectly. But when the judge asked for evidence, we played the video, the one where they told me I was a mistake, where they pushed me out of the house on my birthday. The mood in the room shifted right away. I'll never forget the judge's face as she watched my parents treat me like garbage. When the video ended, she turned to them with a serious look. "In all my years on the bench," she said, "I've rarely seen such clear proof of emotional abuse and neglect." The decision came quickly. Aunt Lauren was given full legal guardianship. My parents lost all their rights. When the judge slammed down the gavel, I felt like I could finally breathe. For the first time in my life, I was free from their control. Just when I thought the drama was over, Grandpa Jack called us to his lawyer's office. We sat in big leather chairs surrounded by tall bookshelves. The room smelled like old paper and wood. I felt nervous. "Olivia? Lauren?" Grandpa said, his voice serious but his eyes kind. "I want you both to know I've made changes to my will." He nodded at the lawyer, who pulled out a thick folder. "As I said at the wedding," Grandpa went on, "I'm leaving everything to the two of you. Jeremy and Rachel are officially out." I sat there in shock. I knew Grandpa had said he'd do this, but I didn't think he really would. As we left the lawyer's office, my mind was spinning from everything that had just happened. Then my phone rang. It was Julie. "How could you do this to me?" she screamed the moment I answered. "You've ruined everything." I pulled the phone away from my ear, wincing at how loud Julie was yelling. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Don't play dumb," she snapped. "You turned Grandpa against us. Now he's leaving everything to you and Aunt Lauren. It's not fair. I want my share too." I felt a rush of anger. After everything they'd done to me, after the way they treated me, she still had the nerve to ask for money? "Julie," I said, trying to stay calm, "I didn't ask for any of this. It was Grandpa's choice, not mine." "You must have tricked him somehow," she said. "You've always been jealous of me. This is just your revenge, isn't it?" Took a deep breath and counted to 10 in my head before answering. "I'm sorry you feel that way, Julie," I said. "But I didn't influence Grandpa. If you want to talk about it, you'll have to speak to him directly." "Maybe I will," she snapped. "And don't think this is over, Olivia. You can't just walk in and take what's rightfully ours." Then she hung up. I stood there, feeling a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, but mostly just tired. That's when I made a decision. I would stop wasting energy on them and focus on my future. I threw myself into my schoolwork. I wanted to pass all my exams and get into a good college. Aunt Lauren helped me look up schools, majors, and scholarships. Sure, my family situation wasn't perfect. I knew there might be more drama with Julie, my parents, and the inheritance later on. But for now, I had a loving home with Aunt Lauren and Grandpa Jack, a bright future ahead of me, and the strength to handle whatever came next.